Hey everyone, I have here with me Dr. Paul Kruszewski, CEO of wrnch, and
hello.
And his little dog.
Molly the office dog. All right, bye Molly, enough.
So Paul, you're a serial entrepreneur, you're an advisor at Techstars, that's where we first met, and it was great meeting you. I'm really curious to know how it all got started. I mean, you're into AI now for like, what, 20 years?
20 years.
That's amazing. So what got you into the industry?
I go all the way back to 12 years old.
Wow.
So at 12 years old, so I'm born 1967, to do the math. I really wanted a computer. Like, you know, that was the cool thing.
Yeah. They
were $1,000. $1,000 in 1979, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money now.
Yeah.
So how do I get $1,000? Because I wanted to program. I come from a farm in Alberta, raised pigs for money, so for my own allowance. So I sold my pigs for $250. And my younger brother worked with me, and he made $250. And I told my younger brother, I said, Todd, you really want to play video games? Give me the $250 and I will get a computer you can play video games. He's like, yeah, bro, I'm in. So I got $500, but I got to get to 1,000, right? So I go to my dad. I say, Dad, programming is the future. We need to buy a computer. And I was like, I got 250. Todd to put in 250. You match us to do it. Yeah, and bless my dad, he did. And I buy this computer. It's a Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer. So it's this big. It's got individual chiclet keys that barely push. You plug it into a TV. 632K RAM. I remember writing my first program. I loved it. Yeah. You're not bored. Yeah. Anyone listening is not bored. Doesn't matter. I wrote my first programs. I saw stuff on the screen. It was magical. Then I started writing video games. So, anyways, long story short, I just love computers, and I like pet. And so I've been like hacking and hustling all the way. Fast forward, I'm in Montreal. I do my PhD in McGill. And then afterwards, I got recruited by a company called My Virtual Model, Moment in Virtual. And these guys, this was like 98, you know, very .com. So on a PowerPoint, they raised about $30 million, and the thesis was, hey, e-commerce is going to change everything. We're going to create your body on the internet, and then we're going to put clothes on you, and we'll charge.
That's only in 1998.
That's 1998. Yeah. Anyways, and so yeah, they had basically a PowerPoint, $30 million, and a copy of Studio Max. So I built the team out from 1 person to 60 people in 9 months, and we built and shipped the product, and so on and so forth. After that, I got recruited to work in video games. The CTO of a video game company, Behavior Interactive in the city, and loved it. I love video games. But I realized that I'm a technologist and an entrepreneur, and so in 2000 I started my first company in AI, and started my first company doing crowd simulation, worked in film, worked in video games. But interestingly, that was it was very sexy and interesting to do video games. It was a real push. You had to push the technology, right? I was at SIGGRAPH one year, and this prof, who was a military researcher, he said, are you interested in military simulation? And I was like young. I was like, no, I don't want to do any of that stuff. And Rick McKenzie's his name, and he was very adamant. He was like, no, we should try it because your stuff would be great. And we started collaborating, and he was a really great guy. We started getting results, and the most interesting thing happened where in the market I was pushing before, now I'm getting calls. Now I'm getting calls from the US Marine Corps. Now I'm getting calls from L3. And there's no push. People are literally buying this stuff. And so I say that, and then, 18 months later, we were acquired by the largest military simulation and training company in the world. And I say that because I want all entrepreneurs to really open their minds. You may think that's the right vertical, and but you have to listen to the market. You have to listen and say,
yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing that you mentioned video games, because that's how I did start.
Okay.
I love playing games. My first program was a video game, so that got my interest as well. Do you still play video games?
Very little at this point. My second company, we ended up working directly in video games and worked on a lot. So I became a huge Gears of War fan, so that was like sort of the peak of my obsession with video games. Now there's just not enough time.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But also, I think interactive entertainment interests me a lot. So I'm much more interested in these sort of. I like to connect. Connect inspired me a lot. I would watch my wife and my daughters bring over friends, and they would sit, classic gamer, you're with your friend, and that's really awesome. But they had a totally different dynamic, right? They moved all the furniture, and they're playing Dance Dance Revolution, of course, spinning around. And I thought that was really interesting. And so I wanted to sort of enable more casual kind of experiences, more frictionless experiences.
Yeah. If we go back to your first company, like My Virtual Model, why did it grow so big? You recruited 60 people and then it failed?
Yeah, so I didn't found that company. I was hired in. I think the vision was great. I think the vision of what they wanted to do made total sense, but they were way too early from a technology perspective. The tech wasn't there. So we had to hire that fast because we had really hard deadlines. So it was, but I think it was just the promise of this frictionless shopping, and be able to just try on clothing on the internet and make a buying decision from that. I think we're there today. So it was 20 years too early. In the sense, I learned a lot about simulating humans, simulating clothing. So just looking at your shirt right now, and you're perfect. Don't worry about the wrinkles because and the folds is actually really important. But to build synthetic clothing, it turns out that you actually have to do it just like the real world. You have to start with a synthetic. I hired pattern makers who would photograph the clothing, and we'd rip the clothing apart. We'd build patterns, and then we would have artists digitally build the clothes, and then we do a simulation so it would fit on your body. But you literally go out in a T-pose like this, let it rest, and then all these creases and everything. The only way to simulate is like going and moving your body. So it's just way too early.
Do you think we're there today, or is there still room to go?
We're right on the cusp.
Yeah,
we're right on the cusp. I mean, we're working with part of that. So within 5 years, I think it'll be pretty normal for people to stand in front of their TV and try on basic clothing. Not the high-end clothing, but yeah, within 5 years.
And were you addressed to direct consumers or to fashion retailers in selling the technology?
In their My Virtual Model.
Yeah.
So their model, again, the conceptually great was the idea is that, again, these numbers maybe have changed, but sales, someone working in a store gets about 5%. So their business model is we will replace that salesperson, so we will get the 5%. So excellent idea. But they would work, so they worked with, what was it? I think JCPenney was their first customer. And so they promised a pilot for JCPenney. So they would work with customers to do the lines. And so it was sort of like back end. It was almost like you white label My Virtual Model, and then there's a JCPenney. Now they had an idea of saying, once you make the model, why can't you go buy elsewhere and stuff?
Yeah.
And that was obviously was their big idea. But I think there will always be that interesting tension, right, between who controls the customer experience of and you probably see this in your own business. Will it be the clothing manufacturer, will it be the retailer, or will it be the person behind? It'd be interesting to see how it shakes out.
And what was the feedback you got from the early adopters? Were they interested in the technology? Were they like, I don't know if it's going to work?
I think it wasn't. It just wasn't. They were interested. It was not photorealistic enough. It's like, for example, you can still, if you Google My Virtual Model, you'll still see the pose. It was literally a pose like this, right? And that was it. So you couldn't. There was no interactivity. You couldn't, try it. I mean, it's very interesting. As men, we're probably a little more boring than women. But when women try clothing, and they try on together, how does the swish of the skirt go? How does it hang on the shoulder? All that kind of things, Yeah.
And now you're in the edge of technology. Where do you see it? maybe the fashion industry, but AI going in 5 to 10 years within the industry?
Where do we see AI going into fashion?
Yeah.
I think it's going to just transform everything.
Yeah.
Supply chains, design. Yeah, and that might be the weirdest. So just go right into the weirdest.
Yeah.
And I say this, and my son is a designer, but it's really fascinating. So my second company got bought by Autodesk, which is a great design company, and they've started doing experiments of taking existing designs and then using AI to come up with new designs. And so they're doing like things like beams and structural beams, but you sort of give the constraints to the system, and you say design a beam. And you get these really crazy beams that no human has ever come up with. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. And I've seen some other work by different groups where, I think it might have been Adobe, where they say, I want to build this table, you know? And so you can sort of almost say, here's these palette of tables, and then you ask the AI to give you more choices. And you know, sort of like how if you're creative and you work with a client and you want to say, hey, what do you want? And you show things and you sort of go that way. So I would suspect the design process for clothing will be semi-automated in 10 years.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And so I think so on the design process, I think that's going to change everything. And so I think we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff that, you know, because, you know, again, designers like my son, they're crazy. And then you get the computers sort of amplifying all that creativity. So that'll be interesting. And then on the other side of the spectrum, AI is going to change completely materials and 3D printing. So, and I think those are highly correlated, 3D printing. And if you've seen those dresses, they're 3D printed.
Yeah.
So the possibilities of fashion will be completely different in 10 years. Now, will I still be wearing a hoodie and jeans? Maybe, but the possibility of some really way out stuff will be there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read a couple of weeks ago the first AI painting was sold for $400,000.
Right, I saw that. Yeah.
It was amazing. I never thought like AI would have an application on arts, and fashion is art, of course. But you can see like there is demand in that market. So it's really interesting to hear your thoughts. Yeah. But we're seeing like a lot of companies trying to adopt AI. What are the kind of mistakes that you see them going into when they're trying to adopt this new technology?
I think it's like, it feels like the internet again, where it's just like, all of a sudden everyone's an AI-powered company.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I think the biggest mistakes are just following trends and doing it because, you know, their board said, we need to be an AI-first company. What does that mean? Why? So you have to go back to first principles. What are you trying to solve? You know, what is your pain as an organization? You know, what are you doing that you want to get better at? What are you doing that you're not getting better at? And then asking, and then asking AI, you know, people, can AI help us? And this is what, you know. So that's the thing, the cart before the horse.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that it's a tool to get to something.
Yeah.
It's not the product itself. Right?
Yeah, it's just so ridiculous right now.
Yeah, and we see AI every day in our daily lives, like voice assistants, like autocorrects, stuff like that. But yeah, so what is one piece of advice you would give to someone that is looking to incorporate AI into their business, and how are they gonna, you know,
baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. This is a really new world. I've been doing really novel stuff my whole life, and it's hard. I was actually just mentoring somebody this morning, and they're trying to come up with a new product, and you realize that no one's ever done these things before, so you can't map out a 5-year plan. So come up with a small pilot, you know, where you can visualize success and take things baby step, because there's a lot to learn. Yeah, that'd be my biggest thing.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other thing is find out where you can be unique, right? So I think where a lot of traditional organizations, what they have, they don't have the expertise, but they have data. And so that's it. That's valuable. That's as valuable as the expertise. And so, you know, if you're on a project and you're working with a good partner, that AI expert should be able to help you really sort of curate your data, say, hey, where's your data special, or what's the most valuable data, and finding that, and who knows what it could be, right? And they'll say, oh wow, you've got something really interesting there. Let's exploit that.
Yeah, and I think the data sets and data themselves are a big challenge, especially for new companies going into space, startups.
Yeah.
How would you go into finding a good data set to just train a good model?
So I'll tell you how we did ours,
Okay.
because I mean it's a great question. It's a very broad question. Yeah. So there are some public available data sets, but again, then your competitor has access to that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just sort of hunkered down and built our own data sets. Again, now we're in computer vision, so that was sort of tractable. We did a lot of little projects first, and we took less money, but we baked into our model that we would always get a sub-license to the data. So we would never work with anybody unless we could have a sub-license of the data. So what that meant is, so if I'm working with you, you keep your data, but I have a sub-license that I can, a perpetual sub-license that I can own, that gives me the right to use that forever, so I can build more and more models. It doesn't mean that I'm sharing that data with anyone, but internally, I'm building out my data. So that's we've been very successful at that. Some organizations initially freak out because they've never heard anyone do that. We're like, that's fine, but that's how we roll. And if you want to work with us, that's how we need to work. If you don't, that's okay too, right? And then going really on the crazy side, because a bunch of us are ex-video game people, we generate synthetic data. So we've generated virtual humans. So it is my virtual model Redux. We generate virtual humans in a game engine, virtual clothing. We dress them, we put them in virtual environments, and then we take virtual pictures of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's really. I'm very. Thank you. It's early days, but I'm very excited about synthetic data.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. What are some other interesting applications? I mean, can you talk us a bit about wrnch and what does it do? And
yeah. So what we're doing is we're teaching cameras to understand humans. So literally, the camera we're looking at right now, it's recording pixel information.
Yeah.
What we can do, we can take that pixel information, we can extract the 3D motion capture data of you and I, and then we can also start to read your actions to know if you're nodding, where you're looking, if I'm waving to the camera, that kind of metadata. The initial marketplace that's been very successful for us is entertainment. What I love about entertainment is they're great about early adoption. They have good sized budgets, right? Like they're not the biggest budgets, but they're budgets that can be meaningful for a small company, right? To pay the electricity, but they want to get the stuff out, and they're highly creative. So I think the more creative the industry, the more forgiving they are on stuff, and so they accept half-baked technology. So we work on a lot of sort of digital experiences from the low end, where we call them magic mirrors. So you can walk up in front of a television, interact with a virtual character. The Mill in London, actually, where this just built an exposition for Jaguar. At the Paris Auto Show, where through the TV you see this digital Jaguar, and we provide the visual cortex. You can interact with this beautiful cat, and all the way to the high end, where we're working on multiple theme park rides, where you'll step into these theme park rides, and literally the whole world is alive because you have 3D glasses on, the projectors, but it's tracking your body, and then you could go like this. And see, sparkles. Obviously, it's not sparkles. I can't talk about it, but if you move like this, the projectors make it look like there's sparkles coming out of your hand.
Wow.
That's very magical.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where we're at as a business.
So how did you come up with the idea? I'm really curious.
So in a certain sense, this is like I've been doing this kind of thing my whole life, building these things. But weirdly, going back to my daughters and my wife. The two things that I saw with them was, so they loved Connect, and they loved dancing together and having their friends over, and I thought that was really cool. And they love Snapchat. And so there's Snapchat filters, and that's the origin of this. So we're like, there's got to be something really big here. Yeah,
that's great. And we're in Montreal now, and it's become like a good hub of innovation in AI. how was it a few years ago, and how do you see it? Because I know you're one of the leaders here, and everyone knows your name, so I'm really curious to know the story.
Let's just say you found a great time to come here. It's awesome. Yeah, it wasn't always like this. Definitely in the 90s, there was very little. So if you go through the waves, we're all standing on, on giants. So simulation, I think this is all part of simulation and creativity. So you can trace this all the way back to the 1940s, where Canadian Aviation Electronics, so CAE, the world's largest simulation company, is based here. So they've been building out engineering and simulation for years. But there's always been this creative component. So with the National Film Board. And then, then 3D animation technology started, I can't remember the name right now, but, and then soft image started, discrete logic started, this is in graphics. Then the game industries came on top of that. And so that's sort of building us up to the early 2000s. And meanwhile, at McGill and University of Montreal, they're building up the deep learning. But it really only started coming together in the last couple of years, that overlap of things. So now is a great time to be here. But when I started my first company in 2000, less great. So it is getting better and better. And I think not just because of the number of people, but I think the support. Like I think of like Techstars, a creative destruction lab, that are now very active in the city. Or I would love to have had those like in 2000 when I started my first company. And I think venture capitalists, there's a lot more funds. They're a lot, more educated on tech. So it's really coming together nicely. But what I really appreciate about, I think, Montreal tech scene, Canada in general, as opposed to maybe the Valley or something, there is this really collaborative nature here that I like, as a Canadian. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. That would be the way to describe it.
So would you advise people to come here for, if they want to start an AI company, go to Silicon Valley? What would you...
That's a very personal choice.
Yeah.
It depends on the kind of company you build and stuff. It was interesting. I was just at an investor evening put on by the Quebec government with Japanese investors. I think this is the right place to do it, because your bang for your buck is bigger, and also I think it's a more collaborative environment. I think in Silicon Valley it's so expensive and so dominated by big tech. This is what I'm hearing, and actually I heard some people who have relocated from the Valley to here, is that they just can't compete and it's just too noisy and stuff. And so, we're happy to build out here. We see this as a great opportunity. We want to expand. We want to expand into Toronto. We want to expand into Edmonton, just so we can go even faster. But I think Canada is the right place because it's North American, but it's
Plus, it's beautiful here. If I may add, we really love it. So I want to switch gears a bit, and I want to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
And your answers don't have to be rapid fire. You can just elaborate as much as you like. So, when you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
The
word successful.
Who's the first person?
Yeah.
I think of Jensen, the founder and CEO of NVIDIA. Because he's just inspires me. I've seen him talk. I've met him personally. When I look at NVIDIA and what they've built, so NVIDIA is like one of those classic rocks, successes after 20 years, right? Nobody knows NVIDIA, right? If you don't know NVIDIA, you should. They built the best GPUs. They are powering the AI revolution, but they did it by hard work. They did it by grinding, serving gamers, which is my passion, serving gamers, every year getting better and better, and then all of a sudden it exploded. And what I love about Jensen is that he went right from the beginning. He's running this 12,000 person organization. He's insanely hands-on, like I said. I've met him several times. At all these shows, he'll come there personally. I write him, he'll write me back. But when you listen to him talk, like he'll do a 2-hour keynote and he can go from heavy business to heavy tech in one shot.
I read recently the AI, how fast it's evolving, we can contribute that to the gaming industry.
100%.
You know, the requirements for running games become like you need to have a good GPU. So NVIDIA is capitalizing that, and that was brilliant. So, what is the book that you would gift the most?
That I would gift the most?
Yeah, because reading is
oh, geez, that's a hard question because I'm really a function of like whatever I'm reading right now.
So, someone comes to you and you're mentoring him. What would your advice would be? New founder of a startup. What book would you recommend?
Oh, geez, it's a little old, but there was a great book by Guy Kawasaki.
Yeah.
I can't remember the title. That is really good. The Art of the Start. I think it's old, a bit old at this point. But if I had to say what has stood the test of time, I would say The Art of the Start.
Okay, good.
But I'm dating myself. I'm aware of it.
Okay. So, what is a common misconception about you?
About me?
Yeah.
Jeez. How crazy I am. I'm actually quite grounded. I'm a very boring person. I think sometimes people think I'm a little out there and stuff. I have a very, I do like to think crazy things and build crazy companies, but I'm actually very sort of nuts and bolts. You know, I come from a farm in Alberta. You know, I'm married. I've got kids. I got a dog. I'm hyper structured. Like I get up in the morning. You know, every day at the same time, I take the dog out on an hour walk, and I come make coffee for my wife, say hi to my daughter, you know, drive my daughter down to the bus stop, drive work. So I'm very like a clock, and I think maybe sometimes people might think I'm a little like fly, but I'm very like, do my stuff, go to the gym. We have a great gym. I'm here at the gym every day. Like, yeah, I'm like a metronome. Do my stuff, 6, 7 o'clock, and then I'll go home, I'll cook dinner. You know, catch up with my family, watch a little TV, read a book, and go to bed, and just repeat it. Yeah, so I think maybe people probably don't know that I'm really boring and hyper-structured.
Great. What is your favorite documentary? Do you watch documentaries?
I don't watch much of anything now. Like I'm so bored. I basically work and cook food and like feed my family and take care of my dog. The one I enjoyed the most is that BBC Richard Attenborough series on the planet. That's what I've enjoyed. Just the complexity, the beauty of the planet.
It's amazing. I've seen that.
You know, and that's that I really like. I don't watch much, but I would say sort of. You're a Brit, so I love reading the New Scientist magazine. I don't know, are you familiar with New Scientist?
No.
So we have a whole bunch. I have a subscription. So I call this is the Economist of Nerds. So it's a weekly thing. It's about this thing. And it's British. It's fantastically written. And it covers all of science.
Wow.
All kinds of science. And so some of my happiest moments are about 4 p.m. I've got this beautiful chair, Eames chair that I sit on. I make a martini. At the fire, dog is at my feet, you know, family may or may not be around, but it's quiet at least. And I'm sitting there with that martini, and I've got this magazine, and for an hour, I just go completely into all kinds of things about, you know, deep space, and like, you know, neuroscience, and it's like a page, it blows my mind. That's like, blessed hour.
Sounds graphic and beautiful.
It's really, I'll show you after. It's like, you know, fantastic.
Okay, that's great. So what is the most useful product or service that you bought under $100 Canadian in the past year?
These are really good questions, man. I wish I had seen them before. The most useful.
First, yeah.
Okay, first thing coming up. So, a gym class, man.
Thank you very much for
My
your time,
pleasure.
and it was great having you with us.
Thank you.